I, 32M, have been married to my wife Eileen, 29F, for 5 years. We met during our college days when I was a senior and she was a sophomore. It was at a mutual friend's birthday party, and I remember being struck by her infectious laugh and kind eyes. We hit it off immediately, bonding over our shared love of obscure indie bands and terrible sci-fi movies. Our relationship progressed quickly, and within a year, we were practically inseparable. After graduation, we both landed jobs in the same city. I started working for a tech startup, while Eileen pursued her passion for graphic design. We moved in together, and 2 years later, I proposed during a weekend getaway to the mountains. It was a simple, intimate moment, just the two of us, a stunning sunset, and a promise of forever. Our wedding was a small affair, just close family and friends. That's when I first met Eileen's older brother, Max, 34M. He showed up late to the ceremony, reeking of alcohol, and proceeded to give a rambling, inappropriate speech during the reception. I was furious, but Eileen just laughed it off, saying, "That's just Max being Max." From that day on, Max and I never really got along. It wasn't that we had a big falling out or anything, but his personality just rubbed me the wrong way. Max was the stereotypical charming bad boy, always the life of the party, constantly surrounded by friends, and living it up. Eileen and I, on the other hand, preferred quiet nights at home. We enjoyed each other's company and didn't feel the need to go out all the time. This difference in lifestyle choices often led to Max making snide comments about how boring we were. He'd show up unannounced at our place, usually on a weeknight when we were winding down after work. "Come on, little sis," he'd say, "let's go hit the town like we used to." Eileen would always decline politely, but I could see a flicker of something, regret? Nostalgia? In her eyes. When Eileen and I first got married, Max's visits became more frequent and more disruptive. He'd raid our fridge, sprawl on our couch, and ask to borrow money. Sometimes he'd bring along a rotating cast of friends or girlfriends, turning our peaceful home into an impromptu party venue. He'd complain about his job, when he had one, his dating life, and pretty much everything else under the sun. It was exhausting to be around him, but Eileen always made excuses for his behavior. "He's just going through a rough patch," she'd say, or "he didn't have it easy growing up like I did." I later learned that their parents had divorced when Eileen was just a kid, and Max had taken on a protective role. This led to a complicated, codependent relationship between the siblings that persisted into adulthood. Despite my frustrations with Max, I tried to be understanding for Eileen's sake. I knew how much she loved her brother, and I didn't want to be the guy who came between siblings. So I bit my tongue, cleaned up after his messes, and did my best to tolerate his presence. About a year ago, Max announced he was engaged to his girlfriend of 6 months, Zoe, 31F. We only met her a couple of times before the wedding, but she seemed nice enough, quiet and a bit reserved, which seemed odd given Max's larger-than-life personality. Their wedding was a lavish affair, way over the top in my opinion. Max had always liked to be the center of attention, and this was his moment to shine. After the wedding, we saw less of Max. Eileen was a bit down about it, but I was secretly relieved. I hoped that marriage would finally make Max grow up and stop relying so much on his sister. For a while, things were peaceful. Eileen and I focused on our careers and started talking about starting a family of our own. Then, 3 months ago, everything changed. It was a quiet Sunday evening, and Eileen and I were curled up on the couch watching a movie when we heard frantic knocking at our door. When we opened it, we found Max standing there, looking disheveled and upset. His eyes were red and puffy, his clothes rumpled like he'd been sleeping in them. "Zoe kicked me out," he blurted out before we could even ask what was wrong. According to Max, Zoe had been acting distant and secretive lately. When he confronted her about it, she exploded and told him to leave. He said he didn't know where else to go. Eileen, being the caring sister she is, immediately invited Max to stay with us until he could sort things out. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, but seeing how distraught Max was, I reluctantly agreed. We set him up in our spare room, thinking it would only be for a week or two at most. At first, Max was surprisingly considerate. He kept to himself, helped with chores, and even cooked dinner for us a few times. He talked about looking for a new apartment and seemed genuinely grateful for our help. I started to think that maybe I had misjudged him all these years. Maybe this was the wake-up call he needed to get his life together. But as the weeks went by, Max's true colors started to show again. He stopped helping around the house and started inviting friends over without asking us first. Our grocery bills skyrocketed as he ate whatever he wanted without contributing. He'd stay up late playing video games, the noise keeping Eileen and me awake on work nights. What really bothered me, though, was how he started acting around Eileen when I wasn't there. She told me that he'd make comments about how she could do better than me, how I was holding her back from living her best life. He'd reminisce about their wild college days and suggest they go out partying like old times. I tried talking to Eileen about it, but she brushed it off as Max just being Max. She said he was still hurting from his breakup and we needed to be patient with him. But I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. One day, about 2 months after Max moved in, I came home early from work to find him and Eileen in what looked like an intense conversation. They were standing close together in the kitchen, speaking in hushed tones. They quickly separated when they saw me, and Eileen looked upset. When I asked what was going on, Max mumbled something about needing to run errands and left the house. Eileen wouldn't tell me what they were talking about at first, but after some prodding, she finally admitted that Max had told her some troubling things about me. According to him, he had seen me out with another woman multiple times. He claimed to have photographic evidence but conveniently couldn't produce it when Eileen asked. I was furious. Not only was Max lying about me cheating, but he was actively trying to sabotage my marriage. I told Eileen that it was all fabricated, that I had never cheated on her and never would. I even offered to show her my phone and email, anything to prove my innocence. Eileen said she believed me, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. The seed of mistrust had been planted, and I knew it would take time to fully regain her trust. I insisted that Max needed to leave immediately, but Eileen was hesitant. She said we couldn't just kick him out with nowhere to go. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the events of the past 2 months in my head, trying to figure out Max's endgame. As I tossed and turned, I heard Max's phone ping with a message. Curiosity got the better of me, and I snuck out to the living room where he had left his phone charging. What I saw on his screen shocked me to my core. It was a message from Zoe, his supposed ex-wife, saying how much she missed him and couldn't wait for him to come home. I quickly took a screenshot and sent it to myself before deleting the evidence from Max's phone. The next morning, I confronted Max with what I had discovered. At first, he tried to deny it, but when I showed him the screenshot, he broke down and confessed. He admitted that he and Zoe were still together. They had concocted this whole plan as a way for Max to spend more time with Eileen. Apparently, Max had always been jealous of my relationship with his sister and wanted to drive a wedge between us. I called Eileen into the room and made Max tell her everything. She was devastated, alternating between anger at Max's betrayal and guilt for doubting me. I told Max he had an hour to pack his things and leave, or I'd call the police for trespassing. As Max was leaving, Eileen tried to stop him, saying they needed to talk things through. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything he had done, she still wanted to give him a chance to explain. That was the moment I realized that this problem ran deeper than just Max's actions. It was about Eileen's inability to set boundaries with her brother. I told Eileen that I needed some time to think and that I'd be staying at a hotel for a few days. She begged me to stay, saying we could work it out, but I knew I needed space to clear my head and decide what to do next. So here I am, sitting in a hotel room, wondering if my marriage can survive this. Am I overreacting by leaving, or am I justified in needing some time apart? Should I give Eileen another chance, or is this a sign that our values are too different to make this work? Update 1. It's been a week since I left to stay at the hotel, and a lot has happened. I've had time to reflect on the situation and have come to some important realizations. First, I want to thank everyone for their supportive comments and advice. It really helped me gain perspective on the situation. Many of you suggested that I have an honest conversation with Eileen about boundaries and expectations in our marriage, which I took to heart. After a few days of minimal contact, Eileen reached out and asked if we could meet to talk. We agreed to meet at a neutral location, a quiet cafe near our home. When I arrived, I was surprised to see that Eileen looked as exhausted and conflicted as I felt. She had dark circles under her eyes, and her usual vibrant energy was noticeably dimmed. We started by discussing the events that led to this situation. Eileen began by apologizing profusely for doubting me and for not standing up to Max sooner. She admitted that she had always struggled with setting boundaries with her family, especially Max, due to their difficult childhood. Eileen opened up about their past, sharing details she had never told me before. Their parents had gone through a bitter divorce when they were teenagers. Their father, an alcoholic, had left abruptly, leaving their mother to raise 2 kids on her own. Max, being older, had taken on a protective role over Eileen. He defended her from schoolyard bullies, helped her with homework, and even got a part-time job to buy her a prom dress when their mom couldn't afford it. This led to an unhealthy codependency that persisted into adulthood. Eileen confessed that she often felt guilty for having a stable life while Max seemed to struggle, which is why she always felt compelled to help him. She shared stories of times when Max had been there for her, like when she was going through a severe bout of depression in college and he drove 3 hours in the middle of the night just to sit with her. I listened patiently, trying to understand her perspective. While I could empathize with the difficult situation she had been in as a child, I explained that it didn't excuse her actions as an adult. I told her how hurt and betrayed I felt, not just by Max's actions, but by her willingness to believe him over me. We talked for hours, delving into the core issues of trust, respect, and family dynamics in our marriage. I made it clear that while I loved her, I couldn't continue in a relationship where I felt like I came second to her brother. I needed to know that she was committed to our marriage and willing to set firm boundaries with her family. Eileen seemed to really hear me this time. She acknowledged that her relationship with Max was unhealthy and that it was negatively impacting our marriage. She suggested that she start seeing a counselor to work through her family issues and learn to set better boundaries. I was encouraged by her willingness to take concrete steps to address the problem. However, I also knew that actions speak louder than words. I told Eileen that while I appreciated her suggestions, I needed to see real change before I could fully trust her again. We agreed on a trial separation of 1 month. During this time, Eileen would start counseling and work on establishing clear boundaries with Max. We would have limited contact, mainly to discuss practical matters, to give us both space to reflect on what we wanted from our marriage. As for Max, Eileen informed me that she had told him not to contact either of us during this separation period. She had also reached out to their mother to let her know what had happened, as she felt it was important to be honest about the situation and not allow Max to spin the story in his favor. After our meeting, I went for a long walk to clear my head. As I wandered through the familiar streets of our neighborhood, I found myself outside the little ice cream shop where Eileen and I had our first date. I remembered how nervous I had been, how I had spilled ice cream on my shirt, and Eileen had laughed, saying it made me look endearingly human. That memory, once so sweet, now felt bittersweet. I realized that despite everything that had happened, I still loved Eileen. But I also knew that love alone wasn't enough to sustain a marriage. We needed trust, respect, and shared values. I hoped that this separation would give us both the clarity we needed to decide if we could rebuild what had been broken. For now, I'm focusing on taking care of myself. I've thrown myself into work, taking on a challenging new project that keeps my mind occupied during the day. In the evenings, I've started hitting the gym regularly to clear my head. The physical exertion helps me sleep better at night and gives me a sense of control over at least one aspect of my life. I'm also considering talking to a counselor myself to work through my own feelings about what happened. I've realized that I have some issues of my own to address, like why I let Max's behavior go on for so long without putting my foot down more firmly. As I navigate this separation, I find myself oscillating between hope and doubt. Some days, I feel optimistic about our ability to work through this and come out stronger. Other days, I wonder if too much damage has been done. Only time will tell, I suppose. I'll keep you all updated on how things progress over the next month. Thank you again for all your support during this difficult time. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and I wanted to share what's been happening. The separation period has been challenging but enlightening for both Eileen and me. Throughout the month, Eileen has been attending weekly counseling sessions. She's been working hard on understanding her family dynamics and learning to set healthier boundaries. We've had minimal contact as agreed, but the few times we've spoken, I could sense a change in her demeanor. She seemed more confident and self-aware. About 2 weeks into our separation, Eileen called me with some news. Her voice was shaky, and I could tell she had been crying. She had discovered that Max's lies went even deeper than we initially thought. Apparently, he had been fired from his job months ago and had been pretending to go to work while actually spending his days gambling. Eileen had found out when their mother called her, worried sick because Max had shown up at her doorstep, desperate for money. He owed thousands of dollars to some shady characters and was scared for his safety. When their mother couldn't give him the money, he broke down and confessed everything. His wife, Zoe, hadn't kicked him out. She had left him due to his gambling addiction and the massive debt he had accumulated. The story about her cheating was a complete fabrication. Zoe had actually been trying to get Max help for months, but he had refused, insisting he could stop any time he wanted. This revelation shed new light on why Max had been so desperate to stay with us. He wasn't just trying to interfere in our marriage, he was hiding from his own problems and using us as a safety net. The realization that he had manipulated not just us, but his entire family, was a turning point for Eileen. She told me that she had confronted Max about his lies. It wasn't an easy conversation. Max had tried to justify his actions, saying he was scared and didn't know what else to do. But for the first time, Eileen didn't let him off the hook. She told him that while she loved him and wanted him to get help, she needed space from him to focus on herself and our marriage. She even went as far as to block his number and social media accounts. I was impressed by Eileen's actions. It showed me that she was serious about making changes and prioritizing our relationship. However, I still felt cautious. Years of enabling behavior don't change overnight, and I needed to see consistent effort over time. As for me, I've been doing a lot of self-reflection during this time. I realized that I had also played a part in enabling Max's behavior by not standing up for myself more firmly in the past. I've been working on being more assertive and communicating my needs more clearly. I've also been reconnecting with old friends and hobbies that I had neglected. I started playing guitar again, something I used to love but had given up due to the demands of work and married life. The simple act of creating music has been incredibly therapeutic. Yesterday marked the end of our agreed-upon separation period, so Eileen and I met to discuss our next steps. We had a long, honest conversation about what we both want and need from our relationship. We met at our favorite park, the place where we used to have picnics when we first started dating. The familiar setting felt both comforting and strange, given the circumstances. Eileen shared the progress she's made in therapy and the insights she's gained about her relationship with her family. She talked about how she started to understand the roots of her codependency with Max, tracing it back to their tumultuous childhood. She's been working on differentiating between helping and enabling, and learning to prioritize her own needs and well-being. She apologized again for her past actions and presented a plan for how she intends to maintain boundaries moving forward. This included continuing her therapy, setting clear limits on her interactions with Max, and committing to open communication with me about any family issues that arise. I expressed my appreciation for her efforts but also my lingering concerns. Trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild. I shared how hurt I had been by her initial doubt in me and how it had shaken my faith in our relationship. We both agreed that while we want to work on our marriage, we're not ready to fully reconcile yet. We've decided to extend our separation for another month, but with some changes. We'll start having weekly date nights to reconnect and rebuild our relationship. These won't be elaborate affairs, just simple activities like going for a walk or cooking dinner together. The goal is to rediscover the connection that brought us together in the first place, without the pressure of immediately jumping back into full-time cohabitation. We've also agreed to attend couples counseling together to work on our communication and trust issues. I think having a neutral third party to guide our discussions will be helpful as we navigate this delicate period in our relationship. As for Max, Eileen has maintained her distance from him. She's encouraged him to seek help for his gambling addiction but has made it clear that she won't be offering financial or housing support. It's a difficult stance for her to take, but she understands it's necessary for both Max's recovery and the health of our marriage. I'm cautiously optimistic about our future. We still have a lot of work to do, but I can see that we're both committed to making positive changes. The road ahead won't be easy, but I believe it's worth the effort. I'll update again after this next month to let you know how things are progressing. Thank you all for your continued support and advice. It means more than you know. Update 3, it's been 2 months since my initial post, and I wanted to provide a final update on the situation. A lot has changed, and I believe we've reached a resolution. Over the past month, Eileen and I have been slowly rebuilding our relationship. Our weekly date nights have been a mix of emotions, sometimes awkward, sometimes tense, but also filled with moments of genuine connection and laughter. It's been a reminder of why we fell in love in the first place. One night, we went to the small Italian restaurant where we had our first anniversary dinner. As we sat there, surrounded by the soft glow of candlelight, Eileen reached across the table and took my hand. With tears in her eyes, she told me how grateful she was for this second chance and how committed she was to making our marriage work. It was a small moment, but it felt significant. The couple's counseling has been incredibly helpful. Our therapist, Dr. Martinez, has given us tools to communicate more effectively and work through our trust issues. We've had some tough conversations, but they've all been productive. One session that stands out was when we discussed our different communication styles. I learned that I tend to withdraw when I'm upset, while Eileen prefers to talk things out immediately. Understanding this has helped us navigate conflicts more smoothly. Eileen has continued with her individual therapy and has made significant progress. She's been working on setting and maintaining boundaries, not just with Max, but with other family members and friends as well. I've seen a noticeable change in her confidence and self-assurance. Last week, she told me about a situation where her mother tried to guilt her into lending money to Max again. Eileen stood her ground and refused, something she admitted she wouldn't have been able to do a few months ago. As for Max, he's finally facing the consequences of his actions. Eileen maintained her distance, which forced him to confront his problems. He's entered a rehabilitation program for his gambling addiction and is slowly working on rebuilding his life. Eileen has been supportive from afar, but firm in not enabling his behavior. She receives updates from their mother but doesn't engage directly with Max. It's been hard for her, but she understands it's necessary for everyone's well-being. Last week, Eileen and I had a long talk about our future. We both feel that we've made significant progress in addressing the issues that led to our separation. While we know we still have work to do, we've decided to end our separation and move back in together. The day I moved back home was both exciting and nerve-wracking. As I unpacked my bags, I felt a mix of hope and apprehension. But seeing Eileen smile as she helped me arrange my things back in our shared closet reassured me that we were making the right decision. We've set clear ground rules for our reconciliation. We'll continue with both individual and couples counseling. We've also established boundaries for family interactions, including limited contact with Max as he works on his recovery. We've agreed to have regular check-ins about our feelings and any concerns that arise, rather than letting things fester. I'm proud of the work Eileen has done and the changes she's made. She's shown real commitment to our marriage and to becoming a stronger, more independent person. I've also grown from this experience, learning to be more assertive and to communicate my needs more clearly. While I can't say our relationship is perfect, I feel we're in a much healthier place now. We're both committed to continuing the work we've started and building a stronger, more resilient marriage. Yesterday, as we were having dinner on our balcony, watching the sunset, Eileen turned to me and said, "Thank you for not giving up on us." In that moment, I felt a renewed sense of love and commitment. We've been through a storm, but I believe we've come out stronger on the other side. It's been a challenging few months, but I believe we've come out stronger on the other side. I won't be posting any more updates, as I feel it's time for us to focus on our future privately. I wish you all the best.